I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. I got lost. Degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess. Though I never fully realized why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death. It was one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider. The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation, so that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners. So liberal indeed was the discipline of our captors that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions. For a good length of time, when I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little. Hold on. I'm trying to find where I got distracted. I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight. The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land. But neither ship nor land appeared, and began to disappear in my solitude upon the heaving vastnesses of, what the fuck, HP? Why did you write vastnesses with an extra is? Fucking weirdo. Vastnesses of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, hold on, let me change page. Dream-infested was continuous. Alright, we're just gonna hold on for a moment because it sounds like shit is happening. All good? We're all good? Yeah, all good. When at last I awaked, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious, of unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there was in the air rotting soil and sinister quality, which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid, with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other less describable things, which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. Give me 1 second, I'm gonna see if I can set up my book so I can actually move around and do shit and protect you guys.
Thanks, Pally. Freaking scouts a spot.
Down under. More like 6 feet down under.
Perhaps I should not hope. Perhaps I should not hope. Hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime, yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape was me with nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet. As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position. though some unprecedented volcanic upheaval. We're all good. We're all good. We're all good. Back to story time. Unprecedented volcanic upheaval. A portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions unnumberable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, strain my ears as I might, nor was there any sea fowl to prey upon the dead thing. For several hours I sat, thinking or brooding in the boat which lay upon its side and afforded... This motherfucker. I'll get him, I'll get him. Who does the soldier think he is?
Let's go, let's go!
Yeah, that's right. He's a bitch. He's a little bitch.
We got a slide! Yeah, thanks.
I'm staying untaunted. As I crawled in the boat, I realized that one theory could explain my position. Oh, blah 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 blah. For so, lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue. On the third morning I found soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight and evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal. All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway ham, which than any other elevation on the rolling desert. That night I encamped, and on the following day still traveled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first seen it. By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night. The air, the waning and fantastically gibbous moon, just gonna gibbous people. Gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain. I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon, I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the plain, sort of vague origin. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into fathomless chaos of eternal night, though my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost and of Satan. As the moon climbed higher to the sky, I began to see the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of a few hundred feet, The declivity became very gradual, urged on by impulse, which I cannot definitely analyze. I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had not yet penetrated. All at once my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope. Sorry, I got distracted by the chatting game.
No way!
Which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me, an object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon. That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself, but I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. Closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express. For despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures, dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of scientists or archaeologists alike. I examined my surroundings more closely. The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steep that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far flow of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the face of the cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures, writing within a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me, and unlike anything I had ever seen in books, consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most hold me spellbound. Plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of Dor. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least certain sort of men, though the creatures were shewn disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto or paying homage to some monolithic shrine, which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint, grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or Bulwer. Shockingly wide and flappy lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion to their scenic background, for one of the creatures was shewn in the act of killing a whale represented as but little larger than himself. Decide that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing incoming? Y'all can't say incoming unless people are incoming, okay? Good boys. But in a moment decided that they were blah 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 blah. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born, awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond, I lost I keep losing.
That spy ain't one of us!
Beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then suddenly, I saw it. Only a slight churning, its rise, just the things slid into the dark waters, vast, to the flung its gigantic, scaly arms, the while it bowed its head, its hideous head, and gave vent to certain measured sounds. I think I went mad then. delirious journey back to the stranded. Get him, Scout. Actually, no, it's okay. He's gone.
Yeah! There's a spy over here!
Remember little. I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing. I have indistinct recollections of the great storm. Oh, at any rate, I know that I heard peals of thunder and other tones which nature utters only. Disco Hospital, brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention of any land of incoming? In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing, nor did I ethnologists and amused them with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god. But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly sorry, and waning that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men. Often I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm, a mere freak of fever as I lay yeah, no, it's not it's not phantasm. You're right. Come before me. Vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may, at this very moment, be crawling and ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likeness, and submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows, to drag down in their reeking towns the remnant of puny war-exhausted mankind, of a day when the land shall pandemonium. The end is near. I hear a noise at the door as of some immense, slippery body that hand. The window. The window! That, my friends, is the story of Dagon. Thank you for... Hello. All right. Did you guys like the story? Good story? Yeah? Okay. Awesome. What the fuck?
Yeah.
What is this? Well, he seems chill.